Because I look forward to being fulfilled at my job. That's what it is to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do things a certain way. I'm going to make sure I'm fulfilled at the end of the day, but I'm also going to make sure that I'm not killing myself because I have a life outside of 40 something hours a week, right? This is Adrian Escobedo. I'm joined by Lisa Tilt, and we're on episode 3 of My Brand and My Job. Is it my
Mhm.
brand versus my job, or my job and my brand? Are they the same? Are they different? So we're going to focus a little bit on my job this time around, and in our episode 4, we'll have a call to action. So we'll give you some ideas based on some of the talk tracks that we've had so far throughout this series. So Lisa, I'm gonna start with you. What is my job? And I guess when you hear my job, what do you first think of?
I think it's how people have historically really defined themselves, um, which may or may not be a good thing, but I think that's happening less and less, right?
Right.
More people are bringing themselves to work. And so there's this combination of who we are as people becoming what I do for my job and what that entails. I mean, there's a lot to it. It's a lot more layered than it used to be.
Well, and so it's funny you say that. I remember discussions with other men, and it's their identity. It's
Mm.
it's how they are the, and I'm using an old term here, but they are the provider of the family. And but by some token, I grew up. My dad worked. His job was what he did, and oh, he's at work or he's with us, one of the kind of thing. So it is an identity. But I mean, when I hear my job, I tend to go off in the, is it a grind or is it a springboard? uh,
Mm.
because I look forward to being fulfilled at my job. That's what it is to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to do things a certain way. I'm going to make sure I'm fulfilled at the end of the day, but I'm also going to make sure that I'm not killing myself because I have a life outside of 40 something hours a week, right?
Right.
So when I think of my job, that's kind of what I think of. Now, what isn't your job? If I were to ask you that question, if okay, great, here are all these things that we just said my job is. What is your job not?
Yeah. That is sort of well, it's not my job, certainly has a negative connotation tied to it,
Right,
right? And
right,
and I don't want to go there,
right.
right? Because that's not what we're talking about. But that's the first thing that popped into my head when you said it that way. It was like, well, that's not my job. I was like, well, that's not your promotion. I got it, understand. Um, and again, I think it kind of goes back to um what a job isn't is for me, it is kind of wrapped up in my identity a little bit more, given that, I have a company with my name on the door, literally, and I love what I do so much that it kind of goes into a lot of the things that I do in my personal life because I'm able to work on the things that I enjoy and different things like that. So I would say it's definitely something that fulfills me. To your point, I I wouldn't do it if it didn't. So I think that connection, that it's not just a job. So maybe it's not what it isn't, but what it simply, it's just not linear for me. I think people who really kind of find passion in their job, I think it's just multi-layered, complex, how it sort of is interwoven into not only your personality, but your life in some way. Doesn't mean you have to do it all the time, but there is a connection.
So I'm going to throw something totally off the wall at you. When I was prepping for this, and how do you say what your job isn't when as a man, as
Mm.
a father, as a provider, it is my identity, it is something that my family counts on me to do. Uh, when I put when I started thinking what a job isn't, I put it isn't someone else's to manage. And so many times as I've spent time in my career, I've heard others going, well, my manager is going to help me for my next promotion. And I'm like, no, that is not your manager's job. Now they might help you, they might guide you, but that is not your manager's job. Your job with respect to your career is to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best place to be successful. And this goes back to my previous comment within your lifestyle. Some people are comfortable doing the same old because that allows them to do other things outside of work. My hat's off to you. That's awesome. You have found a way to, oh my gosh, work-life balance, quite literally, is what they discovered. Yeah. So I wanted to throw that at you. My job isn't somebody else's to manage.
Yeah, that's why I love our conversations, because we can come at the same sentence or question from completely different perspectives, but yet I don't disagree with that at all. And I think that is something that is that we do a disservice to even to younger generations, to, if that is the expectation, and not telling them the other way, like own your career. I mean, you hear there are books titled that. There's everything titled that, but I think that is such an important piece of this conversation, because it's also the way that you own your job versus your job owning you, right? And all your time and all of those things. Because that is a key component, regardless of where you are in your career. And there's 5 generations in the workplace right now. Every generation or every sort of period of your time in your career, that is a constant battle in making sure that you are still out front of it. Are you getting bored? Are you getting tired? Well, look at what opportunities there are in front of you. No one's going to come to you, but boy, you look bored today. Can I redirect your career? It's not going to happen, right? It's the same thing was like, well, you really don't look like you're enjoying that ice cream flavor. Can I get you another? I mean, these like go
things that'll never
go and do.
Yeah, things that'll. So if I'm, gosh, this is going to get touchy. So let's be real careful with this. If I'm not happy in my job, is that okay? And I mean, it's a personal question, but what are if someone literally came up to you and said, "Hey, I'm not happy in my job," how would you react to that?
Well, first, to answer sort of the first question is, I think we're delusional if we think that they're people that, if everybody's happy in their jobs, everybody, like, just right there at some point,
it wouldn't be work.
Right. It'd be like, well, let me pay you to come to the office today. Or yeah. But I think that if somebody came to me and said that, my first thing is, thank you for telling me. I mean, I've had that job, or this isn't sort of the role I expected, or any form that general sentence can take. And then there's a real opportunity to dig down into understanding, is it a role change? Is it, I'm now a people manager and I really didn't want to be, but it was the promotion and I wanted to go back to doing the job because I love that part of it and I don't aspire to do this. Awesome, right? And maybe that didn't come out before. So those conversations, if you're a manager worth any grain of salt, you much rather somebody say that to you than not, because then you figure out. So if you have an unhappy employee sitting there, that's going to fester and not turn around. And then if you have the opportunity to put them in a role that they like, they're going to be more appreciative. I know I would be. There's real excitement there, and other people seeing that there are other opportunities. So I think it is only a win-win. And I hope and encourage people to come to say that. And then we'll either look for something different, or guess what? Maybe it's time to move on, and that's okay too.
Yeah. And so let's just say I'm in the process of that type of transition. Okay, I've decided I don't like what I'm doing right now. But I still want to make sure, and of course, these are some of the other topics in our session here. I want to make sure that my brand is, reputable, and that I take advantage of the time that I'm spending with my network here at this job, so that way things grow. And then obviously LinkedIn and resume. I mean, this kind of is a whole nother thing. But I want to make sure that I'm doing the job in a way that protects me and my credibility, so that way I can do the next thing. So I try to make sure that even if I don't like what I'm doing, that I'm doing it to the best of my ability and that I'm feeling fulfilled that I accomplished something. So I kind of try to find those things in the effort that I'm responsible for to make sure that yep, that is the best product I can give it, and that's commiserate of what the expectation is, so that way I make sure my brand is taken care of.
Yeah. I think that's important. And that's you being the responsible person that you are as well. And then, but that's not also sustainable, right? You can do
True.
that for so long. So it's also an opportunity to say, you know what, I don't think I'm as settled as I wanted to be. So again, owning your job, your career is to say, well, what else is around me? Who's working on something else? Is there a client or a business line that really interests me? Let me go talk to somebody. This kind of leads into our mentorship discussion that is forthcoming, but exploring, using those opportunities to say, I'm a little bit unsettled, or I'm really not happy, or anything in between. Let me see what else is out there in my current environment, because I like it here. I mean, there's just so many ways to explore and inquire and to learn within the environment that you have, that sometimes it just seems like there's closed doors, and hopefully there aren't.
So let's put a bow on it, because a lot of what we will be talking about in our next session, which is the call to action of this My Brand, My Job series, is going to be here are some of the things that you can consider for supporting both. So here's my 2 cents on my job. It's not somebody else's to manage. I want to be fulfilled in a way that allows me to have that work-life balance that I want and that my family needs. And then also, I want to be happy and respected. That's if I have all those things going, I have my job the way I need it to be. What are
Mhm.
your thoughts?
You have it wrapped up in a great bow. I do think that boundaries are important. And so whether you're someone like me who loves to work, I still have to have boundaries and I have to define those for myself. And sometimes that changes. So knowing where your job is and where your life is and where that comes together is important. And that self-awareness is important. So I would say that I would absolutely encourage you to talk to somebody, whether it's a manager or a peer or a mentor or somebody, if you aren't happy in that position, to bring that forth, because you never know what other doors are out there. And so just recognizing there's often a lot of opportunity that might not be obvious. And then I would say, we put in so many hours working at a job over the course of our life, and to find out what makes something fulfilling for you, and recognizing that that's going to change and that that's okay, over just really sort of having a mindset where working and living have to coexist, and that that's going to change over the course of your life.
Well said. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we kind of give you tips and tricks on how to manage my brand and my job. Bye, everybody.